The servanthood of a disciple in the kingdom doesn't come by committing to do things for Jesus. It comes instead because of recognizing, receiving what Jesus has done for you. And when Peter is able to receive the Holy Spirit at Pentecost, when he's able to receive fully what Jesus was talking about when he said, "Unless I wash you, you have no part of me," when Peter was able to finally receive it and build his life on what Jesus had done for him rather than what he could do for Jesus, that's where his life was changed. If you try to build your life on what you do for God, you'll get two possible results. The first one's pride, and that's where you feel like you're doing a pretty good job. And that's when you become a Pharisee. You're like, I'm doing better than other people. Look how religious I am. Look at all the good things I am. Look at all the good deeds that I do. Look at what a servant I am. That's pride. But the other thing, and this happens all the time, is that you try out of your own commitment, your own will, and you fail, and you eventually say, "I can't accomplish this, so I might as well give up trying," and that's rebellion. But you won't get anything out of your commitment to serve God other than your pride or your rebellion. Look what a good servant I am, or I'm tired of trying to serve God. It's impossible. And Jesus says to Peter, "Peter, if I don't wash you, you'll have no share with me. You'll have no part of me." And what Peter would have understood about the nuance of that word for share is what we learn in Luke chapter 15 when there's a son, a young son, who is called the prodigal son, and he comes to his father and he says, "Give me my share of the inheritance now." That word for share of the inheritance is the word that Jesus is using here. And he's saying to Peter, if I don't wash you, then you're not going to become a sharer, a co-heir of the inheritance. Do you see what Jesus is saying? He's saying, I have come to do something that will make it possible for you to become an heir alongside of me. That I have come so that you'll have a share in the inheritance that should have been reserved only for the Son of God, but instead is shared with anyone who receives the saving work of Jesus Christ. God came in the person of Jesus so that Jesus could share His inheritance with you. And Jesus is inviting Peter, therefore, into becoming an heir. He's inviting him to becoming a son who receives from the Father what he never should have received. And being an heir is a privilege, a gift that only makes sense when you get the gospel. You don't become an heir because you did something to earn it. You didn't work for it. You got it because you were a son, a daughter, and you receive it. Let me wash you. What he's inviting Peter into is the new covenant. Jeremiah prophesied in Jeremiah 31, one of the most important chapters in the Old Testament. Everybody's Bible needs to flop open to Jeremiah 31. It needs to be dog-eared. You need to know Jeremiah 31 because it is there that the prophet said, the time is coming in which there will be a new covenant. And it will not be like the old covenant. He said, I'll put my law inside of them. God was going to do something inside of us. Slaves serve out of fear that if I don't serve, I'll be punished. But there are also people, and this was my Christian experience, I wouldn't have said I was like a slave to God, fearing that He'd punish me at every turn. I would say I was grateful and that I even had affection for God. But I still was trying to conform to a code, to the behaviors, to what a good Christian should look like. And that's not the gospel. The gospel is a new covenant announcement that says the law gets put inside of you. The Holy Spirit comes inside of you and changes you. The power of the gospel is not to enable you to externally conform to the law. The new covenant came and Jesus fulfilled the law. And Jesus comes into your life, and this is what He aims to do, to change what you want to do, to heal you, to transform you, so that your appetite is different, so that what you're drawn to is different. When Jesus washed Peter's feet, he is demonstrating in a physical sign the kind of internal change that he wants to bring to Peter and to you and to me. He is prefiguring his own death. And he's saying essentially to Peter, if you don't let me wash you, if you couldn't receive me just washing your feet, how could you ever let me do something even more humiliating? And that is to hang on a cross and bleed for you and be stripped naked for you and hang there ashamed and experience the weight of your sin. Let me wash your feet, because the Son of Man came not to be served, but to serve. Let me wash you, Peter, because if you do not let me cleanse you, you won't be clean. And he says this clearly, unless I wash you. He doesn't say unless your feet are clean. He doesn't say unless somebody washes your feet. He says unless I wash your feet. Unless I, and I alone, the way, the truth, and the life, the only one who can come is the perfect, sinless human being hanging on a cross as the God-man, take upon himself the sin of the world and your sin, Peter, so that you could be washed as white as snow, so that you could know that you're forgiven, so that you could know you have intimate access to God your Father, to come to the throne of grace boldly in your time of need and receive freely from Him. Jesus is saying, I need to wash your feet today so that at Pentecost, when the Holy Spirit comes, you'll understand you're clean and holy and you can receive power from on high. Oh, Peter, let me wash you so you will share in the inheritance. Put your own name in there. Alan, let me wash you. Let me teach you. Let me fill you. Let me transform you. Let me encourage you. Let me heal you. Let me strengthen you. Let me hold you. Let me guide you. Let me instruct you. Let me inspire you. Let me use you. God came in Jesus not just to wash your feet, but to die for you and then give you His life. And that's the gospel.